Hey guys, I'm Jax, a non-book boy, and this is my non-book boy review of The Wheel of Time, Season 2, Episode 8, the finale. Wow, what an amazing, explosive, insane episode of television, and what a great way to end this season. I love the fact that every single character, it all built up to this one city, this one big, explosive, action-packed set piece, just this siege of this city, and the disgusting, horrible Fingernail tribe, their elongated fingernails that have just ruined my day every single week for 8 weeks. They just get their comeuppance in some satisfying, disgusting, horrible ways, and it brought me a lot of joy. And just overall, I found this episode to be very, very satisfying. Mostly, I do have a couple of issues, and there are some choices in this episode that I was truly baffled by and very, very confused. And I'm like, sorry, what is happening right now? What is actually happening? I know you're not going to explain it because we've already moved past it, but someone please tell me what on God's green earth right now is happening in this show, because it is so unhinged and crazy. There is like 10 to 15 things in this episode that are just like, I don't even know how to process them. It was truly insane. But there is one thing in this episode, and it's quite early on, that is maybe the most psycho, unhinged, insane, bold, creative decision I've ever seen. Something I don't think has ever happened in television history. And that's, of course... Sorry, I lost breath because I got so excited by how insane and just baffling this is. The episode opens with Original Recipe Dragon, and he has Ishy chained up, and Ishy's all like, we were brothers, and there's a big moment of like, oh, they were best friends, but now they're enemies, and they tie him up and they put him in a box or whatever. And then the episode cuts to black, and I'm like, cool, sweet, title card, let's go, let's get to the episode. But no. After 7 weeks of dropping the long-form opening credits, the creative team behind Wheel of Time do something that presumably was only for me. I am, as far as I'm aware, the only human being in the entire world that needed the long-form opening credits, and they just go, yeah, it's been gone for the whole season, all 7 episodes. Let's just whip out the long-form 1-minute opening credits scene. Let's go. Finale. I don't even know how to process it. I have never experienced something that was taken away like that, and I just went, well, it's gone forever. I have accepted that it's gone forever, and I have come to terms with that. I didn't ever expect to see it in my eyes in a new episode of The Wheel of Time ever again. And yet, in this finale, here we go. It is such a crazy... I know, there's a lot to get to. There is so much in this episode to talk about. But that is the craziest thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. It was so crazy, part of me was like, I have come to terms with not experiencing this one long minute opening credits sequence that I don't even know if I want it anymore. I don't know, I've got some kind of Stockholm syndrome situation with the opening titles that's just big bang and just a smash cut to the title, Wheel of Time, let's go. 5 seconds in and out, like Lost or Supernatural, or a third example of the things that do that type of thing that's very quick in and out. Speaking of which... we start off the episode and the White Cloaks, who've barely been in this season at all, are like, hey, okay, we're going to attack farm. And I'm like, sorry, what? We haven't been building to this whatsoever. We could have gone like 2 scenes, like even just 2 5-minute scenes sprinkled throughout the season, building the hype and anticipation of the fact that they are building up to attacking farm. Because we get 5 minutes, and that guy who liked Perrin, or was kind of friends with Perrin for 5 minutes, his dad is like the commander of the White Cloaks, and considering what happens with him in the episode, I'm like, you really could have just like made him a character, at least to have some lines before this finale. And you might be saying, hey, he was in that one episode. Well, I don't remember him, so it wasn't good enough and it wasn't enough. But I absolutely loved the idea that there's these children and they're swinging these magical lanterns of dust and smoke, and all this smoke and stuff goes everywhere, and you're kind of like, oh, there's going to be like a sneak attack. A couple of ninja White Cloaks are going to sneak in. No, 100,000 horses, Dothraki style, just smashing through, and they just charge. That one shot of like, there's hundreds and hundreds of them. I was overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my god, there's so many of them. They come out of nowhere. That's super cool. But then it's followed by maybe the dumbest thing. And I understand, the Fingernail tribe are meant to be kind of overly confident, where like they didn't even like have someone guarding the horn. Like Ogier just has the horn. He's like, yeah, I got the horn in the box. They weren't guarding it. I don't know. It wasn't even worth being a scene of me grabbing the horn. That's how unprepared they are. But the idea that the gate is just open, Like, the two guys are like, what's going on out there? And their first thought isn't, hey, something's going on. Maybe just, like, close the gates, like, just in case. And then thousands of horses just immediately go through the gate. Like, there's no situation where they've stopped at the wall and they have to, like, take the gate down. It was so dumb. I was like, that is so absurdly silly that the gate would just be open for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of horses just to flood the city. And I just couldn't, I don't know. That like threw me for a moment where I'm like, I was so excited to see so many horses and the action. I'm like, oh my God, full battle epi. Let's go. And then they got through the gate within 5 seconds, like just immediately. The gate was just open for them. And I'm like, well, I just don't really think the Fingernail tribe stand a chance. They are so incompetent and stupid and dumb. And like, I like that because I hate them so very much. But also, it's stupid and dumb. Close the gates, you idiots! Okay, so let's talk Matt. Maybe my favorite character now, even though a lot of the stuff that happened with him in this episode, I'm just like, what? I'm sorry, what? That horn did exactly what I thought it was going to do, and somehow completely not at all what I thought it was going to do. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but let's start with the start of the episode. And we've got that horrible, evil merchant guy. And I remember him having this kind of big, gross kind of smile where you're like, it's a bit off. But I feel like the first time you see him smile, you don't know it's off. You're like, hey, he's just like a character. They got a character actor. I like that. Seeing him now, he's just like, just teeth for days. Just big buck teeth for days. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to like throw shade. Love it. A great little kind of character trait where just he has this awful smile, and it reminds me of like the mouth of Sauron, where it's literally teeth and no eyes. He just has this horrible grin, and there's just something so sinister and gross about him. And he rocks up, and he's all like, hey, I haven't been in this season enough. And I'm like, I know. And he puts down the knife, and he's like, Matt, touch the evil knife of doom. Nothing's gonna go wrong. Wink. I think I blinked then. And so Matt is like, I'm gonna probably touch this knife. Because last episode it kind of implied, he's like, yeah, she's got a good point. I killed people throughout the centuries or whatever. And I found that like a little disappointing. So I'm like, I don't feel like Matt should turn. So I kind of can't tell you how excited I was when he starts like pulling stuff apart. I'm like, oh, he's going to try and escape. Like he was in prison before, so he's going to try and escape now. And he'll use some kind of knowledge that I've forgotten he got in the prison cell. But no, what he does is like, okay, there's a magic dagger and it can touch stuff and burn it and melt it and corrupt it. But if I touch it, I'll be corrupted. And so what he does, which is so fun, it's like, it's so simple, but so like incredibly clever because it's so simple. It's like, yeah, just don't touch the knife. And so he like pushes the knife off, wraps it in some cloth, and we get an amazing little moment where he's like, ooh, he's like wrapping it with cloth. He's like, don't touch the knife, don't touch the knife. What I'm so happy didn't happen was I thought as he was going to be wrapping it, like someone would open the door or something would happen and he would slip and like an explosion would go off or something and he would slip and touch it and he'd be like, oh no. Oh, what a comedy of errors this is, but now I'm evil. And so I'm so glad that didn't happen. And he essentially just kind of creates a spear with the evil magic knife of doom on the back. And that moment where the evil merchant buck teeth for days guy is outside and he sees the knife melting and he's like, that guy's so weak, what an idiot. And then he sees that he's holding it with like a spear and he's like, I'm just going to run. And you're like, that guy's such a coward. I like that. I like that kind of evil, sniveling, kind of servant-y kind of wormtail kind of guy who's going to do all this awful stuff. But then if someone's like got a knife to him and he's like, he's not going to stand his ground and fight, he's just going to bail and like call for people to help him. And I like that. That's like a good type of villain to have compared to say a Lanfear who'd stand her ground and fight in that kind of situation. So I really, really like him. Mr. Buckteeth for days. Love him. He's great. We need more of him in season 3. So Matt runs about with his spear knife of doom, but he didn't touch it. And he's stabbing people and fighting and doing all crazy stuff. And it's all some sweet Matt stuff. And so Matt meets up with Perrin and they have a big hug. And they're like, oh, we'd love to sit and chat about all our stories and all that cool stuff. But fighting in action, I hope all these sexy red-headed warriors are good warriors. And Perrin's like, don't even worry. They will kill everybody in this entire city. These 3 women are awesome. And so the women kill everybody, and Matt and the Ogier, something happens, I don't know, I blacked out the dialogue, but they're like, cut the box with the knife or whatever, and they open the box, and the horn is in there, and Matt grabs the horn, and everyone's kind of doing action stuff, and you see Matt running off to go find Rand, and I suddenly realized Matt is of course going to be the one to blow the horn, and it's going to happen right now, and of course it does. But it was such an interesting moment of like, yeah, because Perrin's got like his whole wolf thing going on. He's with the warrior women. Like, he's got that going on. Egwene has got her own magic thing, and she's like been fighting against she's a Darmani, and she's fighting against the Fingernail tribe, so she's got her own thing going on. Nynaeve's got her own thing going on. It doesn't really fit, like, for her to blow the horn. It feels like that just, I don't know, that just didn't work in my brain. And Rand is the chosen one, the Dragon Warrior, the Harry Potter of this franchise. It's almost too obvious that he would blow the horn. And so, like, you're like, who's left? Mat. What is Mat's plot? Use the knife, but don't touch it? No. Blow the horn. Hero of ancient warriors, of ghost men, something. So this is my big, not issue, question. What? What the hell happened when he blew the horn? Like, all this smoke is gathering behind him. And he's like, I remember everything. I remember it all. And I'm like, okay, are all of the people that died meant to be like people that, like, it's not people he was, because they're like, I fought beside you. And it's got the eye patch guy, everyone's fan favorite from the books. And he's like, I swear and stuff, that's my character. And they're all there, and they're all from different tribes and cultures and things. And I'm like, is this like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where, like, he can go into his past and, like, connect with all the past avatars? Is that what's going on? But they don't, I just don't understand, like, what's happening. Like, I understand it. It's like exactly what I imagined. Like, a bunch of zombie warriors, heroes from the past, rock up and fight with him, like in Return of the King, with the ghosts, the green ghosts. And they're like, let's fight, let's kill everyone. But I'm still I just don't understand exactly how it relates to Mat. Like, I don't know, maybe I just missed something. Where it's like, has Mat been fighting with them throughout his past lives, leading up to this moment? So he's always, like, is Mat always the one who blows the horn every couple of centuries or generations or whatever? I don't know. I'm just so baffled by it, and I thought I was so overwhelmed, and, like, the creative decision to make them swirl and move, like, I kind of like it. Kind of, like, I don't know, it was like that moment where they're all lined up. I'm like, that's a little cheesy and silly, but I'm so overwhelmed by the moment, and I really, really like the creative decision of, as he blows the horn, time stops, and at first I'm like, is he tapping into the Speed Force? Is he going to time travel? Is he going to move really quickly and, like, fight them all like a speedster? I just, like, didn't know what was happening. So I love that creative decision. Everything's going really slow. We cut to all our characters in all the different parts of the battle, and everyone's moving really slowly. And you've got, like, the 60 warriors charging at him, which you can't fight alone, obviously. And then they all just rock up in this kind of triangular hero shot. And it's like, it's almost too cheesy, but it worked for me. But I'm curious how that happens in the books, and does it come across as very cheesy, or is it like millions of warriors? I don't know. I'm very curious how that plays out, unless somehow it's going to be a spoiler, but I imagine that's a kind of one and done moment. But I'm very curious how that works in the books compared to how they do it in the show, because obviously it's going to be a small scale kind of moment. But yeah, I'm very curious about that, and just, I would love someone for just lore dump me, lore explain what actually happened, what was the mechanics, and what is that horn? Has he blown it before? Yeah, just so many questions about the Horn of Valyr. But I loved it, but it was kind of insane, and it just felt like something from the very, very far past. So the idea of the eye patch guy who was like died like a week ago or like a month ago or whatever, like, what? How's he there? Isn't it from centuries ago? I don't know. So yeah, the mechanics of it all, I'm confused. So we have this big final confrontation with Ishy, and I loved it so very much. Ishy is standing there having a conversation with Rand, and all of that stuff was so good. And I love that scene earlier where he's like, Lanfear, it's too early. He's not going to side with us yet. He's not going to choose us. And Lanfear's like, no, he totally will. But she's got her own ulterior motivations and doesn't really care about Ishy. And she's like, Ishy, you're just going to keep, like, holding this off and postponing it and being like, oh, I got another puzzle piece to put in place. Let's just do it right now. But Rand is never going to side with them, especially not so early. They've given him no reason to. And so Lanfear is clearly manipulating Ishy. Ishy's kind of backed into a corner where he's like, hey, Rand's already here. Okay, all right, we'll deal with this. And he has that conversation with Rand. And there's that moment where Matt's rocking up in the background. And I'm like, I feel like Ishy knows he's there, but he's not interacting. I guess he's just going to kill him. And he throws the spear dagger. And of course, Ishy's got a plan, and Ishy's pulled a Loki where he's got a little mirage of himself, and it goes through his mirage and it stabs Rand, and I screamed. I was so shocked, because the whole season with Min having that dream vision early in the season, it's of him holding the dagger, stabbing, and I'm like, Mat has somehow grabbed the dagger without touching it with the spear and the cheeky little wrapping cloth around it moment, and so he's gonna, like, wield the dagger without touching it, so he's fought against prophecy, and it's going to show that those dreams and those prophecies Min has are inaccurate, and people can kind of fight against destiny and prophecy, which I thought was really interesting. But what I love so much is when he throws the spear and it stabs Rand, it proves that even if exactly what Min sees in her visions and her dreams, which I presume is going to be a reoccurring thing throughout the show, hopefully, hope Min rocks up again, loved her, there's this thing where it's you can fight against prophecy, where it's Matt's got the dagger but he hasn't touched it, but still, no matter what Matt wanted to do, in the end, he still stabbed Rand, even if it wasn't him holding the dagger and holding Rand and stabbing him, he still accidentally did it. So even if you fight against prophecy and kind of veer one way, you kind of come back down into what that vision prophesized in a matter of speaking, in a different way, but still getting to that same final outcome. And I froth that stuff, guys. I cannot stress enough how much I love people knowing a prophecy is happening, doing something against it, and then turning out, can't fight destiny, baby. Can't fight destiny. So satisfying. I loved it. That was one of my favorite moments of the episode, and maybe of the season as a whole. Glorious fun. I've complained a couple of times about the magic powers not being visually interesting and creative and just awesome to behold and look at. This episode did not disappoint. It was so beautiful. I just loved it so much. I love the idea of the Fingernail tribe on the boats and all the magic witch ladies that are enslaved throwing up their powers and trapping him, shielding him. He's locked down, and then Egwene comes to his rescue. She's got a giant shield up. Ishy's just throwing fireballs left, right, and center, throwing little fire daggers, and just doing everything he can, and realizing, who is this Egwene lady? What's going on? Why is she so powerful? I don't like this. And I love that it showed how powerful Egwene really, truly is. She is just so powerful, but I also love that she wasn't so powerful that she didn't defeat Ishy. She wasn't able to just overwhelm him. She was essentially strong enough to have a shield that could hold him back for just long enough for Moraine to take out the ships and do all this other stuff. So she's essentially just holding up a shield and buying time. She isn't strong enough to fight back against Ishy. And I love how Ishy's throwing everything he can at her and just kind of over time being I can take down the shield, but this is taking slightly longer than I would like. Okay, so my least favorite part of this episode was the fact that Perrin's dog buddy, wolf friend, was murdered. I cannot believe that happened. There was a moment when it happened where I was in such shock and disbelief and disgust. I was surely this is a vision of the future. And there's a moment where you see the dog rising up, and you see the vision of the dog vision of the dog rising up. I'm oh, okay. We're seeing something horrible, but that's in the future. And he's seeing some kind of vision. Usually he sees what's happened, but later on. But this is his powers are developing and enhancing, and he's being better at being a dog wolf brother, whatever. And so he's seeing something in the future. And so he's going to be able to stop the wolf dying, because they wouldn't kill the wolf, would they? Yes, apparently they killed the wolf. Disgusting, horrendous. Maybe, actually, I hate this episode. How dare they kill that wolf dog? So, you don't do, and it's not it's a villain we've been following, like Renna Bolton or Lanfear or Ishy or someone where you're okay, yes, okay, that you got to show that they're evil. This guy is been in this episode, maybe an episode before, but I don't remember. He's essentially in this episode, and he's the dad of some guy who's eventually presumably going to be Perrin's arch nemesis or whatever from the White Cloaks. And I didn't like it. I loved that Perrin immediately grabbed an axe and he's screw the Way of the Leaf, even though I think I've already disregarded that. He just stabs that guy so hard and kills him. But still, I want more time with that villain if we're going to murder him and he's going to murder the wolf dog. I just hated why did they do that? It's evil. It's evil. I like that he John Wicked afterwards and killed the guy, but I don't like that he was, I don't know, we didn't get enough with the wolf guy. We didn't get enough with him. Disgusting. Truly disgusting. I imagine that's probably most people's least favorite part of the entire book series. Why would they do that? So Moraine and Lan this episode get sent to some beach island place very far away from farm, but not that far where they can walk and meet them just before the battle. I love that moment where they're walking through the ways and there's the tower there and or the portal or whatever it is, and Lanfear's just I just look through that portal for a second, Moraine, and then she's bam, and throws them through, and they just land. And this show looks so good. We got the ocean and the beach and just the tower portal archway just sitting there alone in the middle of the ocean. Really interesting, beautiful kind of almost haunting imagery, and it felt so isolating and alone. I'm like, oh my god, Moraine and Lan are like going to be thrown out of this episode and they're just going to be on this beach. Like, really scary and terrifying. And I just love Lanfear. She's just so cheeky and manipulative and awesome. And Rand's like, how do you think I'm going to trust you now? And Lanfear's like, because I'm just like super smoking and a babe and powerful. Like, what's not to love? And Rand's like, you've got a point. One of my favorite bits was when Rand rocks up and he's got the cloak on him and he's all like, ooh, I'm spooky Rand or whatever. And High Lord Turok is there. He's like, what's your sword? And everyone's there and you're like, oh my god, we're going to do a big battle sequence. And they're all there ready. And then Rand's just like, magic. Just takes them all out immediately. Blood exploding out of everyone's throats. Everyone's dead from magic dagger spears of doom or whatever. And he kills them all. They all drop. And then there's the enslaved person there. His speaker, his voice or whatever, I think it was. And that guy is so enslaved and got such strong Stockholm syndrome. He's just like, no, my captors! And he stabs himself, which was probably the second most shocking moment outside of the dog moment. And he stabs himself and dies. Horrifying, terrifying to think he's so kind of trapped in his world and isolated and so enslaved to the point that he likes being enslaved. Terrifying, horrifying. And it's such a good little moment. Like, they're the little moments where you don't need to have those characters have said anything. It speaks more to, like, the idea of the Fingernail tribe and how horrible their enslavement is and how ingrained it is in the people who are enslaved for so long, presumably his whole life. So they're the moments where we don't need to have those characters having spoken much at all. High Lord Turok just needs to have one moment with the fingernails and I just go, I hate him. And then that voice guy just... It says so much without saying, like, without doing much, it says so much. And I love that. After episode 6 just spent so much time dealing with Egwene being broken down and tormented and just treated so horribly. And it was such an intense episode 6. Ever since then, I have just been waiting for Rena Bolton to have her comeuppance and to be killed or murdered or just something horribly horrible happen to her. And of course, this week we get that. And this is going to sound insane because if anyone's watched any other videos, I've pretty much exclusively talked about how much I hate the Fingernail tribe and particularly hate Rena Bolton and just, I just wanted to see her die. And yet when it happened, I was almost like, wow, I am so overwhelmed with satisfaction that she is dead and she got what was coming to her. And of course, it felt so obvious, like as it was happening, I'm like, oh, of course, she's going to get a collar put on her. But it almost felt too easy. Like, it almost felt like she didn't get enough suffering before she died. And I really I don't know what I expected or wanted, but I felt like once she got chained and she got the collar, and she, like, puts the collar on at first, and she's like, oh, ha, 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 Egwene, you're so silly. That only works for magical witch ladies. And then Egwene's like, actually, you are a magic witch lady. You're just so puny and pathetic and weak with the one power that, like, they didn't even notice you had it, but you have it. And so I'm a little confused because it's like, okay, so did Rena Bolton not even realize she actually could channel? Like, she was so weak with the one power. Or did she know and she was trying to, like, fake out? Because when she put the collar on, she kind of laughs and goes, ha, 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 ha. And then it suddenly starts collarizing on her. And I'm just, like, confused. I'm like, so Rena Bolton didn't realize she had the one power. She thought she was just like a normal woman or whatever. So she didn't realize she had the one power. And then Egwene says some of the words she said to her. And it's like, okay, the tables have been turned. Ha ha ha. Satisfying, clever. This all works. But I kind of feel like, it would have been more satisfying if she had like... I know there's just so much going on. And you've got to kind of take her out and take the collar off and, you know, leave that all behind so all our 5 heroes from the 2 rivers can team up against Ishy in that big final confrontation on top of the tower. So I understand that, like, there's not time for her to be like, Rena, I'm going to enslave you and put you down in a prison cell and you're going to just be chained up forever and not be able to escape and just have to live with that. Because she's dealing with it and she tries to punch Egwene, but she punches herself and all that magical stuff and all that things goes on. But it was just so brief and it just felt like it was almost too rushed where I'm like, I just feel like I wanted there to be a moment where we could really savor the turn of the tables and the switcheroo of the situation. And I also kind of feel like, despite as soon as it happening in episode 6, I'm like, I just need her to get her comeuppance. It's only been, like, there was one episode, but they had the game show of showing everyone's powers in episode 7. And she's like, look at my power, boom. And now this episode where she's like, fight, throw fireballs. And Egwene's throwing the fireballs. And she's like hesitant at first. And she throws a couple. And you can see she's so pained and angry. She's like, I don't want to do this. And all of that is great. But it's kind of like, I almost feel like it's not enough. Like, I would really like to stew with her being in prison for just a little bit longer. And so that when she turned the tables and killed Renna, it would feel like, oh my God, it's been so long. It's been so painful. Finally. Whereas now it's like, Renna was only in 3 episodes. And in one of them, she gets killed. Like, so it's, I don't know. It felt like, I don't know, this sounds horrible, and I don't mean it in like a bad way, where I'm like, oh, I just want to see torture. Oh, I want to see Egwene suffer. It just feels like a moment where it was so extreme, so powerfully devastating and heartbreaking in episode 6, because I was like, will she ever get out of this? How long will it take? Will it be seasons? Like, I don't know, I just wondered how long it was going to be, and now in hindsight, it's like, oh, it was just like a bad 2 months or a week or whatever. So I don't know. That might sound like I'm nitpicking and I'm complaining about getting exactly what I wanted. And maybe I am just broken inside where I don't know what I want. I don't know. It felt weird because it was a moment that I've been thinking about in my mind since episode 6. And now it happened so quickly in episode 8. I'm like, whoa, slow down, Wheel of Time. Like, let's sit with this and deal with this, I don't know, with more time. I don't know. I feel bad saying that it wasn't, like, I wasn't not satisfying. But it just felt like a moment where, like, as soon as the chain went up, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then, like, 2 minutes later, she's just dead. And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, move on. Oh, we're dealing with Ishy. And there was just so much other stuff going on. And then Ishy rocks up and all this other stuff. And it was just a bit like, oh, I just feel like I wanted more time with Renna in power so that when we turn the tables, it really hit home emotionally. So I don't know. I'm curious what people think. Are people going, hey, you've just been saying you wanted her to be punished. Now she's punished. You're not happy? What's wrong with you? I don't know. What is wrong with me? So this week, Nyneave and Elayne get a little bit less than every other character. And there's that moment where everyone's got this big heroic moments and it goes all slow-mo when the heroes of the ancient warrior pasts of the green zombies from Return of the King rock up and they're all like, look at us from different tribes. Let's fight with Matt. Let's go! And they have that big slow-mo moment. It cuts to them and she's just trying to like get an arrow out of Elaine's like leg. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be rude, guys, but it just feels like that's a little small scale, like for like this finale and how big and crazy everyone else's plots are. She's like, just get this arrow out of my leg. And Nynaeve's like, I'm trying, but I can't. I'm like, you can. Just get it out of her goddamn leg and let's do some crazy stuff. 5 minutes ago, you were dressing up as the Fingernail tribe slavers and you were torturing this woman and there was like a little glint in your eye where I'm like, is Nynaeve going to turn evil? I know someone doing something bad is like, there's like a recurring theme of like the good guys doing horrible things. But it just, when the main heroes do something like that, there's just this horrible sense of like, oh, I just have a horrible feeling one of these main 5 guys is going to turn bad at some point, especially when they talked, like Moraine's on the beach talking about how Ishy, Lanfear, and Original Recipe Dragon, Lewis, whatever his name is, were all best friends, and then one of them turned good and the other turned too bad. So there's just like this foreboding sense of like, these 5 heroes that are friends, at some point is one of them going to turn bad and become a Forsaken or something like that. And so just seeing those little glimmers of people doing evil stuff, and there's almost enjoyment or just this sick kind of twisted sense of like, they're going to go that far. Like Elaine's like, hey, calm down, Nynaeve. And Nynaeve's like, I will torture this woman so hard. So all that was great. But then the arrow thing, I was like, yeah, this is fine. Just let's move on. But then it gets to the later bit where they rock up and Elayne starts healing Rand. And I really like the fact that the wound still looks corrupted and poisoned and a bit just like super gross. Like she hasn't healed it properly. So I wonder if that's going to be like a scar. Similar to Frodo getting the Morgul blade or whatever it's called, the Nazgul blade. And it kind of corrupts him. And just over time, it's just this wound that will never properly heal. Which I really like the kind of metaphors for just wounds that don't heal and tragedies and things in your past that just you like come to terms with, but you don't truly heal from. So I really like all that, all great. But there was this one moment where Rand looks up and all his friends are here, but there's this random woman, like the start of, like that's only been in season 2. And he's like, who are you? And there's this kind of golden light behind her and she's like, I'm Elayne. And it was like, well, Elayne? Yeah, whatever her name is. And there's this moment where it was like, that's almost like a rom-com, you know, where like the guy rocks up, he's like, this is my first day in high school, but it's year 11 or whatever. Who's that sexy girl over there? And you see her and her hair's like blowing in the wind. And you're like, well, they're going to get together. I guess that's the plot of this rom-com. And so I wonder, are they hinting that she and Rand are going to get together? I really love when Moraine takes out all the ships in the distance, and she's using the magic power, she's going all about it, and she sends these giant fireballs just taking out all the ships. So very cool. All I kept thinking was, hey, I guess you don't need dragons when you got a badass magical warrior witch lady, and she's just throwing fireballs, killing all the slavers. I don't... This is going to sound so perverse and awful, but I almost wish there were more close-ups of the fire actually, like, hitting the slaver witch lady, like the awful slaver kind of fingernail people who are controlling the witch ladies, and like just seeing them really suffer in this big defeat, and maybe seeing some of the ones that are like enslaved, like Egwene was, kind of falling off the ship and maybe swimming away, especially that one that we've kind of been focusing on, the kind of little girl, maybe show that they were gonna escape and have the same fate as Egwene. But hey, that's a little nitpick. There's so much going on. You can't really show all that stuff. But I think that would have been a nice little moment to be like, hey, Moraine's killed all these people, and yes, she's accidentally killed. As she said, I'll kill thousands of innocent people. So maybe show that some of the enslaved magic witch ladies have died. Tragic, but necessary to win the war eventually and to save Rand, which is really dark and perverse, but, you know, interesting and cool. But have maybe one of them, especially that first one that we've seen throughout the season and last season, just swim away to be like, oh, well, at least some of them survived. That's nice. Also, on Moraine and Lan, her and Lan have maybe the cheesiest, funniest, silliest line. It's like, it's heartwarming and beautiful, but super cheesy. And because she can't lie, she can just manipulate and twist words. There's this moment where Lan's like, how could you say that we're not equals? And I'm like, before it happened, I'm like, I know exactly how this is going to go down, and I am going to scream with laughter, but also in, like, my cold, dead heart, somewhere beating in there, the warmth of the heart that once was is going to beat, and I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it! And she's like, because, Lan, the reason I could say you weren't my equal is because since the day I met you, I knew you were better than me. And I'm like, yes! That is so outrageously cheesy, but I love it. I cannot deny... I'm a cheese maniac. I love cheese on my pizza, and I love cheese on my TV shows. Give me cheese. Sometimes, not always. After all the battle's done and all that stuff is done, there's this moment where she's like, Rand, he's on the tower. Prophecy, something, fire will go, and there'll be a big dragon, and we'll reveal the dragon reborn. And I absolutely love the idea that Moraine has heard this prophecy her whole life, and she realizes it's like this moment of destiny where she's like, is Rand going to do the dragon? It doesn't seem like anyone's doing the dragon. And then she's like, oh my dear God, Lan, I'm going to make the fire dragon. Isn't that pretty cool, Lan? And Lan's like, for some reason he turns his back. He's like, the magic scares me. Too much power. Too much prophecy. And he turns his back, and she does the thing, and she shoots a big dragon. And it doesn't look, it's like not the best looking dragon I've ever seen. I kind of expected more like kind of fire flickering off it. Mostly spectacular and amazing. And the dragon circles around the tower and it breathes fire and it does the whole thing. And I love that because it's like, it would almost feel weird. Like Rand doesn't seem like the character to be like, hey, it's me. I'm the dragon reborn. Prophecy, fire, dragon. Look at me. I'm the dragon. That's a dragon. I did that. I'm cool. But he just kind of goes, oh, jeez. Big fire dragon going on. Don't know what's going on there. And he just walks up and stands there and everyone's cheering and celebrating. And I also love that all the townsfolk that have survived the battle, they don't really look like, they're not looking at Rand being like, the dragon reborn. They're all just like, oh my God, I can't believe we survived that battle. Oh, like this one guy kisses a woman. He's like, oh my God, I never thought I'd get the touch of a woman again. I thought I was going to die. Ah! And so after Rand is healed, he has the final confrontation with Ishy, and he's got all the fire magic wielding powers of the one power or whatever. And it's all corrupt, but a little bit red and cool and stuff. And him and Ishy have a confrontation, and he gets a big sword, and the sword goes all golden fire or whatever. And he stabs Ishy, and I'm like, well, you can't kill Ishy. It's been explained the Forsaken don't die. Remember when Lanfear died, but she didn't die? And then he kills him, and then Ishy falls to the ground, and then he starts crumbling all dusty like his Voldemort. And I'm like, what? I thought they couldn't die. You're not killing Ishy right now. And then Ishy like looks up and there's seagulls. He's like, it's beautiful. And I'm like, Ishy, let's be real. Seagulls are like one of the least beautiful birds. And I'm not trying to throw shade to seagulls. I am just saying, honestly, truthfully, that there are more beautiful birds. Imagine if it was like a phoenix flying in the sky. You'd be like, that's pretty dope. Seagulls? They steal your fish and chips, mostly the chips, but they steal delicious food from you at the beach. I don't rate seagulls, if I'm being completely honest. But I suppose if I wanted to die and I was dying, I'd be like, it's beautiful, there's nothing, yay. But I don't. That's the most horrifying, awful thing I've ever... I don't even want to comprehend his mindset. That is beyond terrifying to me. I understand as a character thing, but just... I just don't want to think about it. But he dies. He, like, flat out dies. And I'm really disappointed. I'm honestly like, I don't want him to die so early. That is, like, really, really disappointing. And if there wasn't a stinger last scene at the end of the episode, which may be the greatest scene we've gotten so far, I would be, like, kind of soured on the episode just a little bit, being like, I understand you want to have the heroes have a victory, but Ishy dying is like, that's almost too much. But that being said, this episode ends with maybe my favorite scene in the whole show so far. Like, because I've loved Ishy. Sexy, charming, just charisma, just sexy man. I've loved his vibe. Lanfear, probably my favorite character. Love her so much. Her manipulation and just her vibe. It's mostly how sexy both of them are. I'm going to be honest. I will not lie to you guys. Their sexy charm is... It's charmed me. But then we get a new Forsaken. A third Forsaken who hints that all the Forsaken are out now. So Ishy knew that Lanfear was going to betray him and that Lanfear has ulterior motivations and maybe isn't like siding with the Dark Ones so much. And I really like the idea that Lanfear is maybe going to turn into like an anti-hero kind of situation, like further on. That's my favorite type of character that starts out as a villain, turns into an anti-hero, then like later on the show they're like, I'm a villain again for like an episode, but then they go, actually I'm an anti-hero. And then by the end of the series, right at the end, you're like, turns out I'm just a flat out hero. Jaime Lannister, anybody? Obviously excluding when it was not good, but before that bit. And so we get introduced to a new Forsaken, and this chick slaps. I love this woman so much already. Just having her pairing against Lanfear, and Lanfear's kind of confident, manipulative, sexy, a bit of a femme fatale kind of situation. And this one is just a creepster, just a weirdo. And she's just freakish and odd, and she's doing some weird spider stuff, and this spider web situation goes all over Lanfear, and her cadence and her vibe, everything was just off, and I frothed it. I loved it so hard. I cannot really describe in words, which obviously for a review, which is specifically me saying words, isn't great, I admit. Just know it made me like a goosebumps on my goosebumps on my goosebumps. That's the only way I can describe how excited it made me. Because like the end of the episode, where it's like hero shot, tower, Dragon Reborn, I'm like, episode, but it's over. That's a shame. And then this, like, I just love a little bit at the end of a season to be like, this is what's going on next season. Just a little tease, a little hint. So excited. Her entire vibe, her entire atmosphere, the mood of her character, even the way the scene was lit was just intoxicating. I loved it so very much. This is going to clearly be the best character in season 3, and hopefully moving forward. I love the dynamic between her and Lanfear. I love the idea of the dynamic it's setting up between Lanfear and the other Forsaken. It is all too cool. This show is so good. I love this show so very much. Yes, there are things that baffle and confuse me. Yes, there are things that I don't understand, but that's probably because I'm an idiot. Or the horn was just confusing. I don't know. Please, anything I have said that doesn't make sense or I am wrong or anything, just hit me up in the comments. I want to know everyone's thoughts. Anything that's up, like anything book related that has happened up until this point and wherever we are, presumably at the end of book 2, probably some stuff in book 3, I imagine, because they've got to get through 14 books eventually. Anything that's already happened and that the show is done weirdly or differently, I would love to know those book differences, those book changes. Anything that's not a spoiler for stuff to come, please hit me up in the comments. And just generally, even if you're a non-book guy, whatever, what's up? Is this an amazing finale, or have I gone insane? I don't know. It was spectacular to me. I'm just super curious what other people think. How did they find this episode? And someone explain what the hell is going on with that horn.